share. But the 10%, giving the 10% to God. Some people say we don't need to give 10% to God because we pay taxes to our governments. We might pay some people might, I don't know, maybe 15% social securities and then federal taxes and state taxes and then city taxes. If you make a lot more money, then you might pay more taxes. So we don't need to pay 10% to the church. Because 10% in the old back then, it was like a taxes today. Since we pay almost 20% to the government as a taxes, we don't need to pay taxes. Some people saying that. But we want to know why the text today, there was the first time in the Bible, the terminology, the 10%, the tithe coming out. The story goes this way. Abraham, he heard his nephew, the Lot, he got in big trouble because all other nations, 4 other kings, they crowd together and attacking other small countries here and there. And one of them was Sodom, where his nephew Lot was there, and he was taken as a captive. All his family members and possessions were taken, and Abraham, he heard, and he was an old man, more than 75 years old back then, and he was not a general, but he had so many well-trained servants at home, 318. And he went out, but it's obvious that he will lose the game, lose the war against 4 kings and all their mighty soldiers with just only 318 servants at home. But imagine he won the game, he won the battle, and he's coming home. And in today's text, the one of the king, 2 kings coming up, 1 king from the Sodom, 1 king from a city named Salem. They coming along, welcoming him. And then the king of Salem, his name was Melchizedek. The Bible said he also was a priest. And then when he see this Abraham, if I were the king, and then I could just command this Abraham, who just went out and fought the war and won the battle with that small number of people, I might say, nice job, Abraham. I will give you all whatever I have. But he didn't say it that way. The Melchizedek, he said, bless, O Lord, the creator of heaven and earth, bless Abraham. And he continues the word to the commands to the Abraham. It is not you who worked hard, fought, who won the battle. It was God who delivered all those enemies into your hand. Therefore, give praise to God. Melchizedek, he knew it was not Abraham who went out and fought the battle, but it was God who gave all those enemies into the hands of this small number of people, 318 soldiers, servants. And then he wants to know, it was not you who will get all the credit, it is God who get all the credit, because God is the one who fought for you. So here, Abraham saying, okay, I'll give you 10% of whatever I plundered, 10% into the world. Now we want to know 2 things. Why 10%? Maybe he could give just 1%. Or he could just kill 1 bull and give sacrifice to God. But why 10%? Is Abraham the first time we're mentioning about the 10% in the whole history, outside the Bible and inside the Bible? No. People back then, Abraham is about 4,000 years ago. He was the one who lived here on earth about 4,000 years ago. When back then still, one of the nations, for example, Egypt was there. Those nations, those tribes, back then still, even though they didn't serve the God of the Bible that we serve, they knew there was somebody, there was a God out there who are watching for them. So they were serving their own gods. So they took the priests pastors, they set out the pastors to worship their gods, and then they built the church, temples to worship their gods, and then they need to sacrifice something. So every single year, even before God commanded them, to Israel people, about 500 years after the Abraham, they gave 10% to their own gods to appreciate for what their gods has done. So 10%, giving 10% is not the idea of our Christians. It's not the 10%, giving of 10%. It's not the first commandments that coming out from the Old Testament. Way back before Abraham's time, people acknowledged there's a superpower God out there. So we want to honor Him by giving 10% of our incomes to God. So that's what he got the idea. Abraham got the idea. Okay, I will give 10% to whom? Well before then, Abraham was called by God. He raised up in that culture, there was God, so he giving 10% to their own gods. But now he knew it is not other gods who just led them into the battle and who led them into the big fight and won the battle. He knew when Melchizedek said, "Praise the God of heaven and earth, the Creator who gave you the victory," to give praise to God, honor to God. Other gods, that means nothing but the God who delivered you from this impossible world. He is a real God. So here, Abraham saying, yes, from now on, to me, other gods that I have been served, they are not real God at all. The God. And Melchizedek, you are mentioned, the God of heaven and creator. He is my real God, and He is my real King. So I want to give my 10%, not to other gods, but the God of the universe. So 10%, giving 10% is not just, you have to give. No, it's acknowledging for whatever He has done for us. But then again, we don't need to give 10%, because 10% back then used to feed the priestess and maintain the church buildings, and then helping out the poor. So we don't need to. No. And back then, and as time passed, Israel people, they asked prophet Seung, give us a king like other nations. We want to have our own kings. In the Bible, God clearly speaks to prophet Samuel, tell the people, I am your God, I am your king. And if you want your own king, you could see like other nations, they will go out after you and they will ask you 10% of all your incomes for him and for his officials. That time was at the time of Samuel. At that time was already the Israel people, they had their Jewish laws. It was time about 400 years after the Moses time, which means last 400 years before the prophet Samuel, they were giving 10% for the temple and the tabernacles, for the priests. So they have been giving 10% already for God. But now God's saying, if you have one king, He will go out after you asking another 10%, 20%. Do you really want to give 10% to me and 10% to your king? For your public officers? They said, yes, we will sacrifice 20%. That's what's happened. And then still in the Romans, the New Testament time too, Paul says, give taxes to the Roman governments. And then still back then, they were serving their own God of Israel. They still had the temple, so they still had to give 10% for their gods as well. Now why 10%? It's not tax that is coming after me. It's appreciation and acknowledging that God was you, what you have done. So today, so different. Since the birth of the church years, we don't need to give the 10% to God with the obligation. But we want to give to God with a loving, genuine heart and a willing heart. And those who give, Bible says, willingly, and those who give with their cheerful heart, they will get the reward. May God bless you, all your givings and your work. Shall we pray? Heavenly God, help us to love you more and more. Help us to love you more and more with our tongues,